bun and welcome to my kitchen. So I was not planning to vlog today at all, but I just got so excited about this idea that I just wanted to talk about it. So let's talk about community in real life, not online, in real life, in your neighbourhood, which is something that I feel like a lot of people my age, or a lot of millennials, or a lot of just people nowadays, don't really have much of. I think there are stats, I'm not going to look them up because I'm lazy, but you can go and look them up if you want. I think there are quite a lot of stats on how much more disparate we are these days compared to how people lived in the past. People tended to know their neighbours a lot better, there was more of a kind of community in the neighbourhood, whereas now we're all quite... Sorry, that chirp is my smoke alarm. I'm going to close that door. What was I saying? People today, because of various reasons, culture has changed, technology has a lot to do with it, are a bit more isolated. Like, we don't tend to know or interact with our neighbours all that much. And I'm kind of interested in that. I used to be one of those people that was like, I guess just having grown up kind of like that, just being like, I don't want to get to know my neighbours. Like, I guess that's coming from a kind of like introverted, kind of social anxiety kind of place, but I've been thinking about it a lot recently because I am newly single and I am newly living alone, and I think of myself as a very independent, self-sufficient person. I do almost everything for myself, or I try to, but something that I've been thinking about in terms of this move is not having a partner anymore and not living with a partner anymore. Or living with someone who is kind of family and who can just work together with you on things when you need help. Just in like basic, practical, domestic things I'm talking about. Like, if you're not tall enough to roll up your broken blind, if you don't have a pair of ladders, if you've run out of sugar, if you need like a wrench or a particular kind of screwdriver that you don't have, or there's something around the house that you need to fix but that you don't know how to do yourself. And I've been thinking a lot about how, I think for a lot of people, it's similar to me, where your relationship, your romantic relationship, if you have one, kind of becomes your family or support network. I know it's not like that for everyone. I personally live like 2.5 hours away by train from my like blood family, so they're not around to kind of be like an in real life support system, although I do have my brother down here in Glasgow now, which is new, but for the last more than 10 years of my life I have been living in a city where I have no blood family. I have friends, but friends tend to be a bit more disparate. Like, I'm happy with the friends that I have, or I'm happy with my network of friends, but they're all quite spread out, and so it's difficult for us to see each other in person. And we live far enough apart that you can't just be like, oh hey, I'm struggling with this thing, could you come and help me? That's not really how it works, I feel like. That's not really what the dynamic is for friends, for me today, and maybe for you too. And I don't know how much you'll be able to relate to this if you don't live alone, or if you have never lived alone. I think just like, obviously living alone, there's like the kind of social and emotional things to deal with that. Obviously you have to try and be a bit more proactive about being sociable, otherwise you might just never socialise. So I think people talk a lot about the kind of social and emotional aspects of living alone, or living with a partner, or living with your family, or whatever. But I don't think, or at least I don't hear people talking as much about just the basic domestic practical side of it. And that's something that can feel like a really big burden to shoulder all by yourself, is to, take care of your entire home and your work and whatever, and your relationships, and to be able to handle every situation or every problem by yourself. That's a lot of pressure. And so I read an article in a magazine recently that was talking about WhatsApp groups in particular, and it was obviously talking about the negative aspects of WhatsApp groups, you know, like feeling like you constantly have to be available, being drowned in notifications, the drama and stuff that can go along with it. But one of the things that really stood out to me was it also talked about some of the benefits of WhatsApp groups, and particularly like specific purpose-driven WhatsApp groups. And one of the examples that they gave is the idea of having like a neighborhood WhatsApp, like just either for your street or your like apartment building or your close is what we call it in Glasgow. And it was just really describing, you know, like what that group was, what it was for, and what people got out of it. And I kind of filed that away as like, yeah, that's something I would like to do actually, because it seems really useful. And it only just kind of like resurfaced for me today, and I've just not been able to stop thinking about it ever since. And I'm really excited about the prospect of setting one up for my new tenement building / close / neighborhood. So here are some of the kind of purposes or uses for a neighborhood WhatsApp group. So a WhatsApp group that's specifically for your apartment building or your street or whatever the case may be. So first is just like maintenance issues and communicating about that. You know, if someone has a leak, if there's any other kind of generic maintenance issue, anything about bins and stuff, like any updates that might be good for everyone in the building to know, you can put that in the group. It's also easier to exchange mail when parcels or letters get posted to the wrong place or get left with neighbours. You can just be like, hey, I've got your mail, or hey, did someone pick up my package? And you can exchange things that way. It's also handy for if you're giving away or trying to get rid of any furniture and you're thinking of either selling it or just giving it away. I know a lot of people here just like tend to put it out on the street because it's the easiest thing to do and just get it like lifted away. But what if you could contact your entire like street or apartment building and just be like, hey, I'm getting rid of this piece of furniture, does anyone want it? And then it goes to a good home and it doesn't have to travel very far, which I think is so cool. And lastly, and this was the example that really stuck with me from that article, is being able to contact the rest of your neighbours in emergencies. So if you are, like me, a woman living alone and something weird is going on, or if like someone has gotten into the close and you don't know who they are, or just like something is a bit like scary or creepy, like being able to put that into the neighbour like chat and get help. That was one of the examples that someone cited in the article, that was just like, we were so glad to be able to help someone out with that in like a kind of scary situation. And that to me just kind of like cemented that idea of just it being really good for just feeling like you're not alone. And again, I mean that in all of the different ways, like feeling like you're not alone, not even so much socially and emotionally, but like practically and for safety. I think it's really easy when you live alone, especially if you are single as well, to feel like if something goes wrong, then you're just screwed and there's no one to help you. And I think it's very easy to be cynical and think, well, they're just my neighbours, they don't know me, I don't see why they would help and stuff. But I think people actually want to help most of the time. I think we would be surprised by how people might help if they actually get the chance to do so. Getting a little bit sappy now. So there's two last things, I guess, that are a little bit less practical that have made me really excited about this idea. So one is just that kind of slightly social community kind of vibe. It really makes me think of like Stars Hollow in Gilmore Girls and the town meetings that they have. And that feeling that like everyone knows each other and it's this kind of community where people can rely on each other for things. And I think that for so many of us, like watching a show like that and seeing that is like really alien to us, because that's just not a thing that we experience in our adult lives, is that kind of location-specific community and that kind of support network, however tenuous, with just the people that are in our immediate vicinity. And so I really love the idea that it's like the kind of 2020 version of like having a Stars Hollow town meeting, but just having that in the form of a WhatsApp group instead, where people can share things. And yeah. The other thing that I think is really cool about this is that it's kind of political organising on a really, really tiny scale, like on the smallest scale that you can imagine. So there is a tenants union in Glasgow called Living Rent, who I think do great work personally. And so the idea with that is to have a union of tenants to look out for each other, to help people who are facing eviction and who are being like fucked about by their landlords, or who, you know, have had their rights violated by landlords and stuff. Just like having a group of people who can work together to help each other out on those fronts. And on a larger scale, they're trying to make changes for how we live and how we rent and just housing in general. They are like a activist group for housing and tenants. And I think they do really, really great work, and I have been wanting to actually get more involved with them. But I think that doing something like this, putting together something as simple as a WhatsApp group for your apartment building or your neighbourhood or your street, is really the most grassroots organising that you can do. If you as a community or as a building have an issue that needs to be sorted, if there's an issue with whoever owns the entire building as opposed to just the apartments inside it, or you have an issue with Glasgow City Council, or wherever your council is, it's much easier to deal with those kinds of things and talk about it and communicate and get help and stuff if you guys are organised and you have a line of communication that you can do that through. I think that when we don't have something like that, and you're just kind of reduced to literally knocking on people's doors, which is not a thing that people do very often. At least I've not experienced that very often. Literally the only times that I've ever communicated with my neighbours, I think, in the last few years have been when I get their mail or they get mine, and they will come to the door and be like, do you have a parcel for me? And I'll be like, yeah, and that's it. So I just think that it's just such a good starting point for so many different things. And like, even, here's an example. I am absolutely furious about some of the changes that were made in the neighbourhood in my last flat, the flat that I lived in with Ross, where Ross still is now. So that flat was on, because it was social housing, so it's through a housing association, it is on top up gas and electricity, as opposed to like, you know, just like a constant service and you get a bill at the end of the month. It's a top-up service because a lot of the people that tend to live in social housing like are a bit more unreliable, because that's what social housing is for, I guess. I personally don't think that's cool, but I kind of almost get the logic of why that is. So here's the deal. Top up electricity and gas, so once you run out, the gas and electricity will just be cut off, like it stops because you've run out of money. And you need to go and use the cards and the key to go and buy some more money and put some more money on it. First of all, there's a couple of corner shops which have pay points where you can do this. And basically none of them take card payments. So you have to get cash out before you can top up your gas and electricity at a corner shop. Secondly, a lot of the corner shops, or the little shops where you can do this, often their machines are broken and they'll just be like, sorry, the machine's not working. And you'll have to then be like, okay, and then go walk to the next one and try that. And just keep doing that until you find someone that's working. And recently, Scottish Gas changed their system. So, well, there's two things that make me really angry. First of all, Scottish Gas changed their system, so you cannot now use those normal pay points to top up your gas and electricity if it's with Scottish Gas. You now need to go to like a special, I can't remember what it's called like a cash point or something. But it's like a more niche version of this like machine that they have in a couple of shops, which means you now have to walk 10-15 minutes or longer to actually get to a place where you can top it up. And still they only take cash, and now all of the cash machines in that little area, in that stretch of street, now charge for cash withdrawals, where they didn't before. So whoever owns those ATMs, those cash machines, has changed it, and you can now no longer take out money for free. So you literally have to walk to find a place to top up, you have to pay money to take out your own money to then top up your gas and electricity because you can't pay for it by card. And this combination of things just makes it an absolute nightmare to actually get access to gas and electricity for people in social housing. And it just makes me absolutely furious. Yes, so a situation like that, which makes me incredibly angry, is a really strange kind of thing to try and fight or deal with by yourself. Especially, so you could contact the housing association, you could try and contact Glasgow City Council, you could try and work things out with the corner shops in the neighbourhood, you could try and find out who owns those cash machines, but it's going to be really difficult if you're by yourself. And I think that having like a line of communication with your neighbours in that situation, they're probably frustrated with that too if they're in the same situation, and being able to work together on stuff like that is just going to be so much easier, and you're so much more likely to actually get something done about these kinds of issues. So anyway, those are all the reasons that I am trying to not get to know my neighbours, but establish some kind of community with my neighbours where we can do each other favours and we can just look out for each other a bit more in this very difficult world. And so I am going to start by just writing up, I think, a little note explaining like, this is what I'm looking to set up. Here's my mobile number, just give me a text. And I'm just going to slip these notes through everyone's doors in the close and see if I get any responses. It would be really nice. I don't expect everyone to join for sure, but I think there's enough practical reasons that I hope that at least a few people will. So let's see how we get on. Hello, cinnamon bun. Socks on. We also have toast, coffee, and biscuits, which I feel like I need right now. To be honest, probably shouldn't be drinking coffee right now because I'm pretty anxious, or I can't tell what is anxiety and what might be chest-related symptoms. Hi, hello. So I started filming the start of this vlog weeks and weeks ago. It might even be over a month now. I printed out my little notes that I was going to put through people's doors, but then I had leaks coming through my windows with some of the really bad weather we've had, #climate change. And my notes got all wet and ruined, so I was looking at having to print out a new batch and start again, and I've just not picked up with that in however long it's been. But things have changed a lot in the past few weeks, and especially in the last week. So hi, I'm speaking to you from self-isolation during the corona pandemic. All I can say is thank God that I bought a bag of coffee before I started self-isolation. Low risk people problems. Yeah, I thought I'd pick up and kind of continue with this video because things have changed, and I think this is something that a lot of people should be doing. If you are in a country where your government is fucking playing, where the measures that our governments are taking do not seem to be proportionate and effective enough. And so we need alternate action. We need alternate power structures and we need to start doing things for ourselves and for each other as well. We can't just sit in our houses and rely on someone else to fix all of this and to keep people safe. And I think that this is probably a fairly accessible and really good way to start organising in your community, which is to set up a community WhatsApp group. In Corona, that means that there are lots of different things that it could be used for, which are even more vital than in normal life situations. So I actually decided to take action on this idea again because of, it was actually I was going to say a Twitter post, it was a tweet by Extinction Rebellion Australia, and they had included like a leaflet that you could print out and put through the doors around your town. They said, I think it's better to start really small and start with either your building or your street, and then you could, once that's kind of going, you could kind of start to branch out from there. And it was basically the same thing that I'd proposed, but they also had a really helpful list of the kinds of things that a chat like this would be useful for. So I'm going to put that up on the screen. I think I'll try and get a screenshot of it and stuff, but the stuff that they were saying was really pragmatic, and I thought it was really good. There is one problem though. If we are all meant to be avoiding non-essential travel and avoiding social contact and avoiding infecting each other, especially if you have symptoms, but of course even if you don't, that doesn't mean that you don't have it, and it doesn't mean that you're not a carrier. So how do we set something like this up in a way that is safe without potentially infecting people with our leaflets that are designed to help people cope and to make things better in the midst of a pandemic? I don't really have an answer for that yet. I say yet like I'm going to solve this, because I am showing symptoms, which is why I've been really strictly self-isolating. It started with just a headache and tiredness, which can both be symptoms of a fever. I've not been able to verify if I actually have a fever because I don't have any way of taking my temperature. My forehead feels pretty warm to my hand, but you can't really quantify that. And I've had some chest tightness, a scratchy throat. I've coughed like a few times, but it's not been like a consistent kind of sustained thing. So my symptoms are very mild, but they are potentially, it is potentially coronavirus, and I have to just assume that it is and take precautions and be safe. So I have quarantined myself essentially in my house. I'm very lucky in that it's pretty convenient for me to do that. I already work from home. My list of absolutely essential workload tasks is pretty light at the moment. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. So I'm not feeling great, but I also want to do stuff to help, because I think we're all going to need to do stuff to help, even above and beyond quarantining yourself and self-isolating, and potentially having to take a real financial hit from doing that. Obviously there are so many people in different types of jobs, in precarious working situations, in jobs which are fundamental public services, which can't do what I'm doing. So anyway, I want to set up this community WhatsApp for my building, and I don't really know how to go about it when I'm worried about infecting people because I potentially have corona. I'm kind of worried about the idea of putting things through people's doors and also venturing out into the close to even do that. But I think to start with, I can definitely just put a sign on my front door so that anyone walking past can see and can potentially get added to this group. I think that's a pretty low risk. So I'm gonna write up a note to put on my door, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm washing my hands really thoroughly before opening my door and putting it outside and stuff. But I think I'm gonna start there. And okay, so you guys know that I'm a handwriter, but I think this is a case where I probably want to be touching this piece of paper for as little time as possible. I think actually the science is showing that handling objects, as long as everyone's washing their hands and stuff, isn't a super risky thing for transmission. But obviously we all just want to be safe rather than sorry. We want to take all the precautions that we can. So I'm going to type out this note that I'm going to put on my front door, and then I will print it, and that should minimize the contact that I have with it. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so I finished writing my note. Okay, but here's what I've got. Hello neighbour, in light of COVID-19, I'm starting a community WhatsApp for our tenement building. Obviously you could substitute your street or whatever. This could be a helpful tool to help us look after each other in the months ahead and stay informed on how the virus is affecting our area, in my case Yoker, Glasgow. Here are some ways that we could use the chat. Picking up shopping or urgent supplies, dog walking, posting mail, introductions, tool sharing, pet sitting, trade swaps, and anything else which seems useful. Once life has returned to some kind of normality, the chat could also be useful for everyday things like exchanging mail and parcels, maintenance or cleaning issues for the building, giving away unwanted furniture, getting help in case of an emergency, and borrowing a cup of sugar. Please send me a message at my phone number. If you want to join but you don't know what WhatsApp is, but you or someone in your flat has a smartphone or a computer, text me and I can help you set it up. Stay safe and I hope to hear from you soon. Rachael from, and then I just put my flat number. I'm pretty happy with that, and I think that also works to just put that as a sign on my door, put it as a sign in the close, or to put it through people's doors if I figure out, you know, a safe enough way to do that. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'm going to now go and wash my hands very thoroughly and print this out, and I'm just going to washi tape it on my front door. Okay, so I'm now just going to set up the sign or the leaflet or whatever you want to call it, the notice, the note, the memo that I've just created. I'm going to set it up as a Google Doc and I'm going to share it on Twitter, and I'll share it in the description of this video as well. So if you want to print this out and, you know, use it for yourself, go for it. Okay, so I've set up the Google Doc and posted it in some places. I don't really know what to do with myself. Like, I'm just, I want to be doing things because, like, I'm bored. I'm kind of bored of just, you know, trying to take care of myself and rest up, which for me means not working and just really watching like a lot of TV. I'm kind of bored of that, but I also don't really feel up to much, to be honest. Like, this headache has just lasted days, and it's I'm just really tired. Like, I don't know, I go back and forth where I'm like, oh, there's nothing really wrong with me, not that that would change the precautions that I'm taking, but yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is probably nothing, and then sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I feel totally out of it. That was my throat catching. Yeah, so it's a strange kind of limbo to be in, as I'm sure many of us are, where like I want to be doing things, I want to be working or writing, or like doing more of this like community, hopefully helping, you know, other people who are much more badly affected by all of this than I am, but also just being like, yeah, I'm gonna take a bit of a break. I'm gonna just like watch some YouTube stuff, probably some like home decor videos or something, have some more coffee, have something to eat, and just chill for a bit. I really also kind of just want to tidy up my flat again. I like sorted out the kitchen yesterday, but because I'm trying to rest, like there's just like a fair amount of tidying up and cleaning which needs done, which is like not a really nice vibe to be in when you're stuck at home and you don't feel great. So if I'm feeling up to it, then I might do some of that later. Who knows? I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in the same boat that I am, where we're just like, yeah, I feel like shit in a bunch of different ways, but it's really hard to pick out what is probably relevant and what is just like the stress of all of this. Ugh. My mum is telling me to get in touch with the NHS, which is our healthcare system here in the UK, because I have like potential symptoms, but the The NHS guidelines say that you shouldn't get in touch if you have mild symptoms, because obviously they're pretty strained at the moment. They have a lot to do and they're speaking to a lot of people, and so you should only seek advice like on one of their helplines or whatever if your symptoms are getting worse or if you're at risk or whatever. And I don't really want to add to the strain that's already going to be on the NHS, especially since I'm pretty lucky in that I have very mild symptoms and it's incredibly convenient for me to just self-isolate. But that just leaves me in a place of uncertainty, because they're not testing most people. The UK is like way behind the curve in terms of testing and taking actionable steps. So I think there are literal healthcare professionals out there who are showing symptoms and aren't getting tested. So I think the chances of me getting tested are like minuscule. So I don't think it's even worth trying, to be honest. Time for a little bit of chill and recovery, hopefully. We're in the kitchen because I'm about to make some food for myself. So I've just gotten totally sucked into Twitter and just like the endless scroll of pandemic panic and retweeting things and stressing out and just been totally sucked into it for I don't even know how long, and now I feel like shit. I think I start to feel worse like physically when I've not eaten like recently enough, you know, when it's getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I should eat something now, or I'm hungry. But to be honest, I start to feel like shit before I even feel hungry, and I'm like, oh right, it's because my body doesn't have any kind of fuel. I can't go out for groceries obviously because I have symptoms. I am meant to be getting a shop delivered yesterday, and I do have a couple of people who've offered to help me out, but I think I want to, like, I don't have high hopes for what I'm actually going to get in tomorrow's delivery, because I know that everywhere is having shortages or everywhere is sold out of stuff because of everyone panic buying stuff. So I think I'm going to wait until it's like tomorrow lunchtime that my shop is going to arrive, and we'll see what the fuck I even get in that, and then I guess I will reach out to some people and see if they can help me fill in the gaps, or maybe pick up things that are kind of essential that I've not been able to get. But anyway, all of that is to say that I don't have a ton of food in the house. I don't have a ton of toilet paper. Yeah, so I'm kind of just cobbling things together. I think I'm just gonna have eggs on toast right now for lunch. I'm sorry, my brain is just, I'm just exhausted and woozy and headachy, and I've had paracetamol and it doesn't seem to have done anything. Anyway, I'm gonna make some eggs. have our first message from someone in my building asking to be added to the list. Hi, Joanna from 11. Could you please add me in the community group chat? Always happy to help and co-op with people. Oh, I feel like shit. How many times am I going to touch my face in this video? It's just me in my house by myself. I live alone. I've not gone outside and I am washing my hands. So please don't give me shit for touching my face in the comments. So I just said, hi Joanna, nice to hear from you. You're the first, but hopefully we'll have some others soon. And she said, oh they will, just give them some time. Thanks for that, it's very helpful. My brain hurts. Oh my god, I can't focus at all. Okay, I've just created the chat and said, hello, Rachel here. Unfortunately, I have some mild symptoms of corona, so I'm self-isolating, which is why I've only posted a note about this chat on my front door rather than elsewhere or posting through people's letterboxes. It would be good to let more people know though, if there is a safe way to do so. But yeah, it's nice to just even know a neighbour's name and know that there's other people here. I also think that like if people in my building, there are a lot of people that are still just kind of living business as usual, and it's probably a good idea for them to know that someone in their building has symptoms, and that's, you know, it's really weird. There's basically no way for me to verify if I actually have corona or not, and so it feels weird to tell people, but I also need to warn people. But it's also, I don't know, it's not a very nice feeling to think that people are going to be afraid of coming into contact with me or living near me. That's kind of horrible to think about. But also, I guess all I can do is my best to not potentially infect anyone else, to make it clear that I'm taking all the precautions that I can. But yeah, that's really nice actually. So Joanna said, I will do, Rachel. If you have any rubbish, just leave them outside of your doors and I'll take them down. So that's another thing as well, is that I have like a bag of rubbish that I can't get rid of. Because I think I saw a chat, this is the thing, is that so much of us are consuming so much media about this, like on social media and on, you know, like government websites or the NHS or whatever it is, and also just through word of mouth and stuff, that I'm forgetting where I've heard things, and that's really not great because it means that I don't really know what information is verified and what isn't. But I definitely remember seeing somewhere that we shouldn't put our rubbish out if we have symptoms. Yeah. But that's a really nice offer, obviously. Yeah, I'll have to see about that. What a strange time we're living in right now. I think that's everything for now. I think I'm going to end this vlog here. Having kind of come through this first stage, from now it's just going to be a case of, yeah, hopefully people trickling into the WhatsApp chat, keeping to myself and trying to rest up because I feel like utter shit. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you are being safe, motherfuckers. I hope you are staying in your house except for absolutely essential excursions out, and might consider trying to set up something similar for your apartment building or close or street or whatever, because I think everyone could use a bit of help right now, and let's pool our resources as much as we can while still staying safe. I will speak to you soon, I'm sure. Take care of yourselves and do your best to take care of the people around you as well.